Viewers, this is Politics Today, hapa Science Television, hapa tunachapa siasa. We have the National Coordinator of Free Kenya Movement, the one and only FELIX WAMBUA. Our sign language interpreter is Gideon Minor. My name is JONAH SIMBA. I encourage you to give us your text messages on what you feel about these topics. 01 11 98 03 84. Let me say that number again. 01 11 98 03 84. I hope the number runs on the screen. 01 11 98 03 84. Yes, I encourage you to give us your feedback. Now, Felix.
Yes.
We are back. Tell me, you had started something on Kalonzo.
Yeah.
Just proceed.
I just want him to distance himself from Gen Zs. We have blood.
Why? You need support.
We have young persons who died on the streets. He was not on the streets. We do not want anyone who has a contract with the devil, a covenant with the devil, to work for us. Why am I saying Kalonzo has a covenant with the devil? He is one of the chief architects of the NADICO report. And we know NADICO report has nothing to do with the grievances that the Gen Zs, the young persons, have been airing out. The NADICO report does not touch anything on reduction of taxes on basic commodity needs. NADICO report has no any intention to lower the cost of living. Again, it's the NADICO report that proposed the extension of term limits. We know that, and that was discussed at Bomas, why they only took the Azimio team, as if it's only Azimio who are aspiring for leadership of this country. When things were right, young people distanced themselves from politics. But when we saw that things are going wrong, we had to stand up to defend and fight for our country. So if Kalonzo at all wants to be a part of Gen Zs and to take support from Gen Zs, he should denounce everything that happened at Bomas and nullify, make it null and void, the so-called NADICO report.
So you're not seeing any seriousness in Kalonzo?
Much as he's working so hard for 2027, he cannot be serious when he has something to share with the devil.
You're not seeing
Those are the positions in the NADICO report. If he's truly sure that we want to create a new Kenya, let's make it null and void and start from zero and renegotiate with the young Kenyans on what they want.
Okay, you seem to be suggesting or to be insinuating that we have a crisis of genuine leadership. Is that what you're trying to say? Genuine leadership both in opposition and in government?
They say, and they have been talking of politics of conmanship, politics of taking advantages of others. This is now what we are seeing it with anyone who tries to associate himself with Gen Zs, and he still have talks with the government. I'm sure I'm going to get office of the opposition or office of the prime minister in the NADICO report. Why again should I go and fight? This is just theatrics. When we are being abducted, they are not being abducted. Why? When we say Ruto must go, we become enemies of the state. But when we say so, they don't take it serious because they know the games that they have been playing for all that time.
When you are talking about theatrics, are you suggesting that Kenya is becoming one big circus?
Kenya has been and was made so by the previous governments and the existing government. Kenyans have been lied for so long since independence. We have been made to believe without Raila Odinga in opposition, Kenya cannot be Kenya. We have been made to believe that only Kalonzo from Ukambani can speak for the people of Ukambani. A young person like me cannot speak. We have been made to believe that anyone to get votes from Nyanza must be accompanied by another person from Nyanza. This is the time that Kenyans are going to vote for ideologies, to vote for policies.
Come on, Wambua. Someone would fault you for not understanding how politics works.
I know and I understand that we may look like naive, we may look innocent in the arena of politics, but when they said we want to be partyless, meant that we want leaders that are independent in their minds, not leaders that will be held on the neck and forced to vote the way the party leader wants.
Now you're suggesting something. You're saying that you're not necessarily partyless, but you want genuine individual leadership.
Exactly. And when you look at Free Kenya, we say independent leaders. You may be a member of another party at the same time be a member of Free Kenya.
Okay.
We are saying this because
we had a leader here, the president of the Youth Parliament of Kenya. He was talking about the same thing. Young people seem to be suggesting that operate in your parties but have the same mentality. Is that what you seem to be also pushing for?
Right now, Free Kenya is a member of National Consortium Committee.
What's that?
This is a group of CSOs, movements within the boundaries of this country. More than 70 groups are in it. And every group is independent on its own. But our voice is one. When you silence Free Kenya today, we will have another group from Kisumu agitating and demanding for accountability. If you silence Katiba, Linda Katiba team, another group from Mathare will rise. If you silence us now, another group in Mombasa will rise. That's why we say we are leaderless.
What are you demanding for?
We are demanding for a Kenya that accommodates all of us. Simple.
Isn't Kenya accommodating all of us?
No. In a country that has a budget of more than 4 trillion, and when you look at the population that is living below poverty line, abject poverty, let me say, it's more than 40 million, more than 45 million actually, out of a 50 million economy. So this is a country that accommodates few. It's a country that have translated or converted the population of the young people to become farm laborers. Who were the farm laborers? Farm laborers were the colonies' think tank, were the colonies' farm laborers were the key factor of production during the colonial time. Farm laborers were the people who were enslaved and taken to the Caribbean. People who were carried to fights which are not ours during the First and Second World War. So we are not going to a young population that is going to be sold out as slaves, as laborers in Saudi Arabia, as laborers in Germany.
There are opportunities, thousands of them, that the government has won for Kenyan workers in Saudi Arabia. Thousands and thousands of opportunities. We have a lot of people going to Saudi Arabia. You're not for that?
I'm lucky to have schooled in a school where I interacted with so many nationalities. I have a friend in Dubai today. I have a friend in Saudi Arabia today. And I know the kind of jobs that Kenyan government is promising our youths.
What kind of
Our girls are dying in Saudi Arabia. Our young boys are dying in Dubai.
But what is the state of Qatar? It's okay?
There are some decent jobs that we can get out there. But most of what the government is banking on is the informal jobs. An housemaid cannot be guaranteed of health insurance. An housemaid cannot be guaranteed of an house allowance.
They're getting an average of 35,000 per month.
Oh.
That is not what they are paid in Kenya here.
Jonah,
many of these young girls would tell you they would rather go to Saudi Arabia than stay here and be paid how much Do you have an idea how much many of these girls are paid approximately? Is it 5,000?
Jonah,
No. Let's talk about that first.
Jonah, I agree with you. They are getting 30,000 as an house manager.
Well,
but do you know what trauma? Do you know how their rights as human beings are being violated?
So, okay.
You cannot value or attach any value to human rights. You cannot attach any value to human life. Most of the young people who have been out there, I know they are suffering. I know whenever they come back, they go to rehabilitation centers. They have been traumatized.
Right now, there are talent visas to the US and the UK, I think. You go out there as a talent, with your talent, you're not for that.
Don't you know that those guys are so sharp that they are harvesting the best brains, the best talents from us? Why don't we have such here?
If you stay here, your talent will get wasted.
It will get wasted because we have a government that has no plan, has no way of absorbing these talents. If we had a creative government, if we had leaders who are looking at the future of the young people and who are looking at the dynamics that are coming with the job market, then Kenya would be the best place ever to be and to work from.
Fairly, Felix, don't you think now it is important for them to just go out there than stay here and get wasted?
I'm crying to everyone who is out there, anyone who is in diaspora.
Because how long?
Let's make Kenya home. You remember there's a friend of mine called Mercy Tarus.
Right.
Anasema, Kenya ni home.
Right.
Kenya cannot be home when you are running away. Kenya cannot be home when you cannot feed your children.
No.
Kenya cannot be home when you cannot guarantee your children's security.
True.
Kenya cannot be home when you cannot guarantee your children good health, good education, feeding, shelter, and all those.
I have feedback in most of these shows from Kenyans from Canada. They are excited to have left this country for Canada. Many of them literally did everything to run away from Kenya. There was one, Miguna.
With the current situation,
yes,
anyone would be happy to run. But for us, we are saying, even if the heat is too much in the kitchen, we must remain here. We must make sure that Kenya works for all of us. We must make sure that Kenya benefits everyone who is within the Kenyan boundary. As long as you are born in Kenya, you are a Kenyan, you have a right for decent living. Those are things, the rights that are enshrined in our constitution. We are all entitled to decent living.
What is your description of decent living?
Decent living is a situation where I'm born, I'm guaranteed of clean water, I'm guaranteed of health care, I'm guaranteed of good shelter, I'm guaranteed of employment, I'm guaranteed of an opportunity to serve my country freely.
Yeah, President Ruto will tell you he's making affordable housing, and this will be affordable. Are you for that?
I have always applauded Ruto for doing the wrong things because he's a champion in misleading everyone who listens to him. His speeches are so cunning, so sweet, but at the end of the day, they will leave you in a ditch. If you listen to Ruto without reasoning, it will bring you up to this point where we are now as a country.
Forgive me for finding it funny, what you just said.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
He's so nice, he speaks so nicely, so sweet. And it's unfortunate that he has stopped going to churches. He has been a darling to the church. But now I have seen pastors also crying and wailing. So I have learned a lot from him as a leader. He's my senior, he's the age of my dad, and I always respect him. But when it comes to matters affecting this country, I have every right to question him. I cannot obey without reasoning at this point.
So you are not for that affordable housing idea, the many houses that are being constructed right now. You've just explained your meaning for decent livelihood and shelter.
Affordable housing.
In your list, there has been shelter.
Affordable housing is affordable according to his statement.
You've mentioned.
When you go to ground on reality, it's not affordable. One, this is a choreographed way of stealing Kenya's money.
Have you come across a house that has been constructed by the
I've seen many.
Have you seen people living in any? Some of them?
none has been commissioned so far.
Are people living in them so far?
None has been like occupied. None has been occupied. In Kwale, he said he's going to be commissioning the housing at Kwanjenga anytime this week or next month. I don't know.
With people
because whatever he says, I always believe it when it happens. You cannot believe anything that comes from his mouth.
Okay, I wanted to hear that from you because honestly speaking, from my side, I'm trying to look for maybe one viewer can give us feedback if they are already living in one.
I'm saying these houses are not affordable. One, he has already taxed you. Once he taxes you, he has got public land. He is not purchasing the land. He is getting public land. After getting the public land and constructing that house, he comes back for you to pay. It's a soft mortgage. You pay rent for a number of months to ensure that the money that you pay, let's say in 10 months, is equivalent to, let's say, 3 million for a studio room in Kwanjenga. That is now double taxing. Why should we pay for what we already were taxed for?
Are you sure of what you're talking about?
This is something that went through the courts. It's just the other day. The courts gave a go-ahead and said that house levy is legal. For the last 2 years, he has been taxing people with a court order. The court had stopped that.
Yeah, by the way, yesterday it was all over the news. The court has okayed the housing levy.
Yes. I think this is something that court did was reasonable because already the houses have been constructed. Where do they go? You see? Our courts are so reasoning, our courts are doing well. Now that the houses have been constructed, where do they go? And the big man has said this is an agenda number 1 for bottom up. And they have prioritized it. It was the theme of Mashujade.
Was it done in Kirinyaga or something?
Come again?
Which court?
It was in Milimani, Nairobi.
Okay.
Yeah. So, as we speak of all the policies that have come up with Kenya Kwanza government, I can tell you it's a failed government from the beginning of their term.
Fine.
From 2022 August, when they in 2022 when they were sworn in office at Kasarani, the first thing he did was to come up with a cabinet. He himself said that the cabinet was incompetent. He failed. And he failed to form a government. Secondly, the first finance bill was referred to as unconstitutional. The first finance bill was stopped by a court order, the 2023-2024 finance bill. And that's why you see Gen Zs and young people were furious when now Ruto government comes again with another finance bill which impoverishes them more, which leaves them more poorer, which drains their pockets, which drains their sweat, which drains their blood. They said no, enough is enough. Again, I'm trying to let the viewer understand that Ruto government has failed. That's why we have stood firm to say Ruto must go. Okay. Much as it's a criminal, it's a crime to say Ruto must go because we are treated as terrorists, more worse even than terrorists, more worse than rebels. It's better to steal in a bank than to stand in Nairobi streets and say Ruto must go today.
Let's go back to your list of decent livelihoods. You spoke about healthcare in there.
Sure.
Shifsha. Mm-hmm. I'm almost hearing you talk Adani.
Of course.
Yes.
We cannot end this conversation without mentioning Adani.
I'm almost hearing you talking about Kenya Power. And then, yes.
Those are the key issues. Those are the agendas that should be prioritized by this government, by the parliament actually. They are the people's representative. They are supposed to advise. I wish I could get a minute with President Ruto. I would tell him the bitter truth that his majority leader has failed to tell him. I would tell him the bitter truth that the Speaker of the Parliament has failed. Even the Attorney General has failed to advise him.
Fine. Let's go back to that list of your what you said, healthcare, Shifsha. What do you have to say about it?
You know, it comes a point that you have to do it. You want it, you don't want it, you have to do it. That is the point where Kenyans are. You know,
So
you cannot keep a sick person in the room and wait until we finish the battles in the streets or in the courts. Some are just complying.
Is it working already?
To save lives.
Is SHA working?
You know, it could be working, but what process, what steps what did they take before implementing this SHA shift thing? Did they do it in a right manner that accommodates every Kenyan? Before we were transferred from NHIF, did they do a public participation that was quantifiable to ensure that every Kenyan is comfortable and ready to migrate to the new healthcare funding model? If at all the government is serious, they would not have forced people by transferring them. Others were forcibly registered to SHA and SHIF without knowing. You were just receiving a notification on your phone, a message, an SMS, that so and so you have been successfully registered to SHIF. It's wrong. We have Office of Data Protection. Where were they? Some people were not ready to have their data transferred to the new system. Again, it's the whole thing is a scam.
So what is
before SHA SHIF came, really? There was a recommendation by the parliament that they only needed 5 billion to come up with a new system, new health integrative system. But now here comes Adani with SHIF-SHA and a system worth 109 billion.
Did you just mention Adani?
Adani is you cannot do all this. Everything that is happening in Kenya, its climax is Adani.
What does Adani got to do with SHIF? I thought Adani is just with the airport.
Adani
and with Ketrako.
Adani is like it's like a character name that is being a title that is being used, but we know there could be many Adani Samo, Adani Kip, Adani Ole. So Adani is just a title.
Forgive me for laughing.
We know Adani is just to cover up. Kenya is run by few families. Kenya is run by few individuals. Was it reasonable to leave a system that was worth 5 billion and go for one that would cost taxpayers money 109 billion? Today, how many cancer machines would have been bought for level 5 hospitals with that money?
I'm just wondering, what is the level of the civic education in Free Kenya movement, so that maybe your members, do they really understand these issues? Because there is nothing as dangerous.
Free Kenya movement alone, in fact, cannot reach grassroots. That's why we are saying, even you down there in the village, once you have the information, pass it, inject it to your neighbor. Don't stay with important information. We may be like restricted to move, but whenever we reach your village, we are going to share with you information that is quantifiable, information that has been verified about what we are talking about. We are in a country that my friend, my brother Morara says we are living in a crime scene. The country itself should be fenced. All Kenyans walk out and bring in investigators, because now, this country is a home of all sorts of crimes and evils.
Allow me here to be the devil's advocate, for lack of a better word. President Ruto himself, during the campaigns, spoke of something. People laughed, but are you standing at that danger? Because he said, ignorance is bliss. And I think that time he was referring to the InfoTrack report that time. He said ignorance is bliss, and really they came and won. So when you're talking about these things as the youth, do you really understand the issues? Do you really understand what is bedeviling all these sectors that you're talking about? That is probably what I need to ask, because from this stage moving forward, don't you think as the youth and as a movement, you need to start taking very serious attention to your civic education, civic engagement, and public participation? Because even when you are calling for public participation, not many of your youth people show around. Unless it's the other day we had of impeachment, that's when there was a lot of mobilization for public participation. Don't you think what I'm saying is true? As we wind up, of course.
Is very sharp,
and I'm taking those ones as your last words.
And he has studied the population of Kenya. He knows that the masses are ignorant, and he has to capitalize on our ignorance. So when we walk down the villages, down in the slums and in estates, trying to pass the right information, trying to pump some sense to our people, he sees us as a threat, because we are trying to harvest already what he has harvested. He has the masses who are ignorant in his store. So when we go to his store and try to pump in some information which will bring light and liberate people's minds and change the way people think, change the way people perceive and see things, he is seeing that as the greatest threat to him. We know time is up. We know we do not have the machinery and the enough resources to reach to every person in our villages. But we know we have a voice, and that voice, once it reaches you, ensure that you make another person understand of where this country is headed.
We know we have a voice. That is how our national coordinator for Free Kenya Movement, Felix WAMBUA, finalizes today. You've been watching Politics Today. Hapa tunachapa siasa. I encourage you to give us your feedback. 0111980384. Kindly send us a text message. We'll read it and probably respond to you. Our sign language interpreter has been Gideon Minor. My name is JONAH SIMBA. See you next week here on Science TV. Bye-bye.